Jnana-kosha, Vedas.
ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवस्त्रमस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पदानः शृण्वन्नोतिभिस्सीदसादनम्
Shukla Yajurveda Upanishads. Hmsa Upanishad. The Sanskrit word Hmsa means any kind of goose or duck. A method has been handed over for training oneself in meditation by intoning duck sounds as fits. The Hmsa Upanishad tells briefly that regular thundering listening is a proper way to awaken that heavenly goose that shines of its own accord. Furthermore, the sound of that special bird is not quack, 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 or is it? The Hmsa Upanishad is close to the circle of thoughts of the Nrsimha Tapaniya and Ramatapaniya Upanishads. It is found in the Upanishad also as Hansat, Hamsanada. It says the word Hmsa is the king of mantras, Mantra Raja. The Hmsa, the individual soul, becomes the Paramahamsa, the supreme soul, through one Om meditation, particularly by its reverberation inside. The main contents involves an introduction. The individual soul is called Hmsa through the combination of inborn subtle sounds of breath. The Hmsa Upanishad teaches an ascent through 6 mystical circles, chakras, lotuses, and vertexes onto the Brahma Andhra at the top of the head. This ascent is had by meditation of the syllable Om as it becomes audible within. Hmsa repetition may help that thunder, the medley sound called Om, to come to the fore. Then it is fit to keep it audible as long and often as you can. This mantra King Hmsa has a symbolical interpretation. The individual Atman is conceived in the form of a bird, a Hmsa, goose, duck, or swan. It is told that the Hmsa and the Paramahamsa are one, that is individual, and the highest Atman are one and the same in essence. Through Hmsa gliding, one awakens to oneness with Paramahamsa. Listening to thunder within is the recommended practice. In some quarters, yoga methods are taught for that. Essential yoga aphorisms. Aphorisms are founded in the Hmsa Upanishad. The individual soul is called a goose, a Hmsa. The goose sound, not quack quack, is repeated several times a day in some variants of yoga training that make you weep. You can awaken a goose in your heart, and when you do it, shines like 10 million suns. The goose in an image of the states you may enter, the sun's beam you may see blinding inner light. Such light is nowhere found to be dangerous to the eyes, but the ancient text advises to focus on thunder instead. It is not any outward booming sound that is meant, though. The meditation method of thunder listening is one way to awaken that heavenly goose that shines of its own accord. The individual soul Hmsa is the highest soul Paramahamsa. He who listens well to such thunder, in his heart he becomes blissful and calm, nay, turns into the Brahmatman, God's self in the end. What should you focus on, the divine eye or the soft thunder? You do best in listening to the thunder you hear in the calm. That is what the Hmsa Upanishad and Yogis says. The work describes inner sounds you may eventually hear through doing the duck as should be. Skill in inner diving is what is called for essentially. However, sound and person should fit. Those who are not of Brahmin quality would do well to refrain from using the Om mantra. It should be well known that long periods of improperly performed meditation may have negative psychological or physical side effects, whereas gentle yoga postures, a little breathing, and a gentle dip of meditation could do you a lot of good. Meditation is considered to be safe for healthy people. Om, that Brahman is infinite and this universe is infinite. The infinite proceeds from the infinite. Then taking the infinitude of the infinite, it remains as the infinite Brahman alone. So let there be peace in me, let there be peace in my environment, let there be peace in the forces that act on me. Now the Upanishad. Gautama addressed Sanat Kumaras thus, O Lord, thou art the knower of all dharmas and art well versed in all the Shastras. Pray tell me the means by which I may obtain a knowledge of Brahma Vidya. Sanat Kumara replied thus, Hear, O Gautama, that tattva as expounded by Parvati after inquiring into all dharmas and ascertaining Shiva's opinion. This treatise on the nature of Hmsa, which gives the fruit of bliss and salvation and which is like a treasure to the yogin, is very mystic and should not be revealed to the public. Now we shall explain the true nature of Hmsa and Paramahamsa for the benefit of a brahmacharin, a seeker of Brahman or celibate, who has his desires under control, is devoted to his Guru, and always contemplates as Hmsa and realizes thus, it Hmsa is permeating all bodies like fire. In all kinds of wood or oil, in all kinds of gingerly seeds, having known it does, one does not meet with death. Having contracted the anus with the heels pressed against it, having raised the Vayu breath from Mula Adhara Chakra, having made circuit 4 thrice round Swadhina Sthana, having gone to Manipuraka, having crossed Anahata, having controlled Prana in Vishuddhi, and then having reached Ajna, one contemplates in Brahma Andhra in the head, and having meditated there always I am of 3 mantras, concises this his self and becomes formless. The Sisna penis has 2 sides, left and right, from head to foot. This is that Paramahamsa, Supremhamsa or higher self, having the resplendence of crores of suns, and by whom all this world is pervaded. If this Hmsa, which has Buddhi as vehicle, has 8-fold vritti, when it is in the eastern petal, there is the inclination in a person to virtuous action. In the southeastern petal, there arise sleep, laziness. In the southern, there is the inclination to cruelty. In the southwestern, there is the inclination to sins. In the western, there is the inclination to sensual sport. In the northwestern, there arises the desire of walking and others. In the northern, there arises the desire of lust. In the northeastern, there arises the desire of amassing money. In the middle, for the inner interspaces between the petals, there is the indifference to material pleasures. In the filament of the lotus, there arises the waking state. In the pericarp, there arises the swapna. dreaming state. In the bija seat of pericarp, there arises the Shushpati, dreamless sleeping state. When leaving the lotus, there is the Turiya, fourth state. When Hmsa is absorbed in Nada, spiritual sound, the state beyond the fourth is reached. Nada, which is at the end of sound and beyond speech and mind, is like a pure crystal extending from Mula, Adhara to Brahma Randhra. It is that which is spoken of a Brahma and Paramatman. Here is the performance of Ajapa Gayatri is given. Now Hmsa is the Rishi, the meter is Avyakta Gayatri, Paramahamsa is the Devata or presiding deity. Hum is the Bija, Sa is the Shakti, so Hum is the Kilaka wedge. Thus there are 21,600 Hmsas or breaths in a day and night. Salutation to Surya, Soma, Niranjana, the stainless, and Nirabhasa, the universalless. Ajapa mantra. May the bodiless, the subtle one guide or illuminate my understanding. Vashuhat to Agni Soma, then Agna Agnayasas and Karanyasas occur or should be performed after the mantras as they are performed before the mantras. In the heart and other seats, having done so, one should contemplate upon Hmsa as the Atman in his heart. Agni and Soma are its wings. Omkara is its head. Ukara and Bindu are the three eyes and face respectively. Rudra and Rudrani are Rudra's wife are the feet. Kantahata are the realization of the oneness of Jivatma or Hmsa, the lower self with Paramatman or Paramahamsa. The higher self is done in two ways. That is Samprajanata and Asamprajanata. After that, Unmani is the end of Ajapa. Having thus reflected upon Manasa by means of this Hmsa, one hears Nada after the uttering of this Japa mantra a crore of times. It, Nada, is begun to be heard as of 10 kinds. The first is Chini, like the sound of that word. The second is Chini. The third is the sound of bell. The fourth is that of a conch. The fifth is that of a tantri lute. And sixth is the sound of tala. The seventh is that of a flute. The eighth is that of bheri. The ninth is that of mridanga. And the 10th is that of clouds. He may experience the 10th without the first 9 sounds through the initiation of a guru. In the first stage, his body becomes chinchini. In the second, there is the bhajana, breaking or affecting in the body. In the third, there is the bhedna, piercing. In the fourth, the head shakes. In the fifth, the palate produces saliva. In the sixth, nectar is attained. In the seventh, the knowledge of the hidden things in the world arises. In the eighth, paravak is heard. In the ninth, the body becomes invisible and the pure divine eye is developed. In the 10th, he attains Paramabrahma in the presence of or with Atman, which is Brahman. After that, when Manasa destroyed, which is the source of Sankalpa and Vikalpa, disappears owing to the destruction of these two, and when virtues and sins are burnt away, then he shines as Sadashiva of the nature of Shakti, pervading everywhere, being effulgence in its very essence, the immaculate, the eternal, the stainless, and the most quiescent Om. Thus is the teaching of the Vedas, and thus is the Upanishad. Om, that Brahman is infinite, and this universe is infinite. The infinite proceeds from the infinite. Then taking the infinitude of the infinite, it remains as the infinite, Brahman alone, Om, let there be peace in me, let there be peace in my environment, let there be peace in the forces that act on me. Here ends the Hmsa Upanishad belonging to the Shukla Yajurveda.